Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Southampton, part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. I am your host today, Zach Ingo Finch. We are here today to do a bench keep or sell because we want to kind of like, you know, what we're going to do with the squad that is on course to be possibly the worst Premier League team of all time. I've not been back this week, but I'm back today. And obviously that means that I wasn't here to share my thoughts on Wolves. So I'll just quickly knock out of the way, guys. Shocking. Anyway, right, back to the topic at hand. How we doing today? I'm joined by both other members of the team, Oscar and Greg. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
Yeah, doing all right.
Nice. So yeah, obviously we're in a bit of an international break. Might be a bit of a godsend for some of us, just to not have to think about Southampton. But let's think about Southampton and who should be playing here next season and who shouldn't be. So I've got the squad list in front of us. I guess we'll start with the logical start, which is goalkeepers. So guys, Aaron Ramsdale. What are we going to do with Aaron Ramsdale? Bear in mind, he's on £120,000 a week, apparently, according to Oscar. Big up for your research today, because that's going to be helpful for us. But yeah, didn't we have to break like our wage restrictions or whatever to get him, right?
I thought we had a restriction of 100,000, which is why we didn't sign Ward-Prowse on a new contract. Obviously, he might have gone anyway. But I'd thought that was the reason. So, obviously it was fairly last minute. They must have thought he was the man they needed.
It's kind of crazy.
It is an eye-watering amount. I suppose it's for an England international, is the argument. And I guess they hoped it would be for years to come. But it does not seem that will be the case.
We're just another relegation, probably.
It's got to be a sell, right? Just to get those wages off the books for no other reason.
100%.
Probably make some money on him.
I know for a fact he has a fairly hefty relegation release clause anyway. So, yeah, I think it's already been touted. I think Chelsea have been touted, Newcastle. I think there'll be enough teams looking for a goalkeeper. And he has, and not blaming him for it, but he has history of jumping ship when relegated. So I would sell. I'd say if we could get, if we could be looking to get his values about 15 million, if we could be looking around that to replace him, I think that would probably be fair value and it would be good for all parties, especially with Bazunu coming back.
Yeah, let's recoup, get rid. I'm on the bench on the idea of like sell. So let's talk about some of other goalkeepers. Alex McCarthy. So £40,000 a week, apparently.
This is the last year of his contract, right? Because he signed on for 2 years. Baffling.
I believe so. Yeah. I don't really get that. I'll be honest. I thought he would have been signing at the time as certainly a backup, if not a third choice. So to give him a new 2 years on £40,000 a week was a bit eye-watering. I know Forster was on more than double that, so that's why that decision was made. I don't think there is any sense in renewing his contract for me, or, if you sell him, what are you going to get for him? So,
I guess he's just going to live in the back until he's released, and then that's it. Like, thank you very much for all of your hard work, but we don't really need you anymore. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think he gets more of a harsh rap than he deserves.
True.
But at the same time, if Bazunu's going to be the number one, I'd maybe look at bringing in another number two if we can get rid of McCarthy, because, again, he's on high wages. But then Lumley, you've got a backup there as a number three. He's not on very much. He's experienced enough. I'd keep him in the building and I'd get rid of McCarthy, would be my option.
He's supposedly one of our cheapest wage bills as well, right? Like 10,000 a week, which, still a hefty number, but by footballing standards, barely anything.
Yeah.
Do you keep Lumley, Greg?
Yeah. He's a perfectly viable second or third choice, probably second choice Championship, third choice Premier League keeper. I think it's fine.
Anything else to add, Oscar? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I don't think so. I think, again, he's. I think he's perfectly made to be a number three. Doesn't seem to be particularly fussed when he's not involved. Could be wrong about that. Although I know, again, I know someone that used to play with Alex McCarthy, and that when he was really in his youth career, and they said he's the exact same. He's apparently completely placid when he's on the bench. He's not worried about being left out. But no, I think Lumley, he knows where he is. And
well, he had England ambitions, right? That was like one of the things he said is he wanted to play for England. I don't know if just the way that he played so far.
I was going to say, it feels like a very interview soundbite, right? Like, I'd happily
it's
sit on
things.
the bench for 10k a week as well. So
yeah.
Rightio. So moving on to the outfield players, we got obviously I guess he's not our club captain, but is kind of a captain at the moment. Jan Bednarek, who's apparently on 70 grand a week, and obviously he had a move touted to where was it? Was it Roma that tried to buy him?
Yeah,
at the beginning, or like during the January season. So obviously that's quite a lot of money for a man that's like pushing towards 30 now. But I think he's been a good servant, and like I don't know. It depends if we decide to completely like revamp the defense. Does he stay? What are we thinking?
If it were me, this may be I think the first one that splits opinions. I would probably sell. Yeah. I think he's worth enough that it would be worth recruiting. Again, all these values come from Transfer Mark, so I don't know how accurate they actually are. But it says £10 million. If you could get anything up to that, between 5 and 10, I would sell him. The fact he's on big wages as well, his value is only going to go down now realistically at 28. So if it were me, I'd sell him. I think we've got enough cover there, or could get other centre backs in.
Yeah,
that I think again he's done a good job, but maybe now's time for a bit of a refresh if we can do it.
I think I agree with that completely. I think that when you watch Bednarek play, it feels like he's a very good defender and one of our better defenders in the team, a key part of that back line. But he was also part of the team both these times we've got relegated, and one of the main defenders in the Championship last year when we also leaked goals. So, I mean, maybe
there it is.
Maybe
it's a bit harsh, but it's true.
Easy to look good in a team that isn't, right?
Yeah, but again, Polish national team, he's really good, and please don't attack us.
You recently get whipped off after 30 minutes from the Polish national team.
I've got a friend who's true. Don't think they're that keen.
It's one of those things that the few times he has been sort of mugged off, the international fan base jumped to his defence, which, so I'm just keen for us not to get ourselves into a little bit of trouble there. Just quickly before we go on our break, one of the things I find mad is Taylor Harwood-Bellis is apparently down on 7.5k a week, which I don't know how accurate that is. However, if that is true, that's insane because it's one of our cheapest players for probably doing the most work this season. But again, he is also about to be potentially in his first ever Premier League season proper, one of the worst, part of the worst team of all time. So maybe that's just our own bias.
If that is the real wage amount, maybe that's the real reason he went and got himself a new agent, because clearly the last one didn't do a particularly good job of negotiating the wage.
Yeah, that's a very, very valid point. I can't believe that when I saw it. I would have understood that last season. He's just come through at Man City and not played much. But when he signed for Saints, I agree. Agent, what are you doing, mate? He's an England international. And he's on half the amount that Juan Larios was on. And so that's why.
Do we keep him for 7.5k a week? Do we keep him?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
100%. And there's no reason to sell him. And if we do, that's what I'd be saying. I'd want to keep him. If we get an offer of over his value, which is, again, apparently 20 million, I'd probably take it because I think he'd want to go.
Yeah,
that's a lot as well.
And that's a lot of money. And again, do we have adequate cover at that position? Probably, even without Bednarek and Harwood-Bellis. We've still got 4 or 5 centre-backs on the list and still got Joe Aribo as well.
For now. Right, let's take a little break and then we'll be back with the rest of the squad.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you. right now.
So we are back, and to carry on, we'll just dive straight back into it. So, Armel Bellacotchap, lads, are you keeping him? Are you selling him? Or are you benching him?
It's a sell if anyone will have him, right? Haven't we been trying to sell him for as long as I can remember at this point?
Pretty much. It's one of those kind of things where, well, I think that they almost did sell him, but there was some disagreement around value, right, when it was to Bioniq. I think that was what it was, because obviously one of them was to do with a failed medical, but the other one was literally to do with the fact that we were like, no, you need to offer us more than like the paltry sum you decided to. But, you know, considering he was supposed to come in, according to all of the people on Twitter, and save our season, it didn't really work out that well for him. But I don't think he's a terrible player. I just don't think that he has any interest in staying here. So it makes no sense to me to just continually keep someone here that doesn't really want to be here anymore. So yeah, I would sell.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So I was just going to say, we're not really keeping a lot of people at this point.
No.
we got like Lumley and Taylor Harwood-Bellis.
It's a pretty bleak outlook, but it's also pretty telling of the season we've had. And if we're being honest, even last season, defensively was not our strength. So it's not a surprise
here,
either.
Was he? He was out on loan the entire season. So
no, I'd be on the same page. I think it's not worked out. It's the sort of one I could imagine being a bit like a Kevin Danzo. He'll go away, start playing well for someone, then he'll end up back in the Premier League with someone else. But it's not working. He doesn't want to be here. I don't think the club particularly want him anyway. Attitude seems a bit off. If you can get over a few million, I'd take it. Get him off the books.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. Right, so straight on to the next one. Our club captain, a man who does show a lot of passion, sometimes a little bit too much. A person that me and Greg said we don't really want to see him play again. So it'll be interesting to see if our opinions have changed. Jack Stevens, what are you reckoning, boys?
I'll jump in. I think keep. I think he'll be fine in the Championship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think £45,000 a week is a bit eye-watering. But actually, in modern day football, is it a huge amount in the grand scheme of things? I'd keep him. I think you're not going to replace him for what you'd get for him, so might as well keep him.
Just depends how bad his injuries are, right? Because like at 31, it's not like he's getting any younger in the nicest possible way, and if he keeps getting out for big long spells, I don't know if part of it's just that he's stretching out a little bit. I don't want to put that rumor out there, or it just you makes you think a little bit, considering how the season's been so far. But yeah, I don't see any reason to really get rid of him at this point, and we're going to need at least some sort of level heads. Just not, just hoping if he does stay as captain, and he decides to show some experience that also shows in, not trying to start a punch up on the pitch going forward, or swearing at a referee in an extremely expletive-ridden run. But there we go. So obviously, next one, Nathan Wood, supposedly on 15k a week, 22. Not really worth that much. Was a Russell Martin sign-in. Hasn't really had a look in since Juric has come in. Had a bit here and there. He started to come good when he was playing, a little bit. But then again, we keep saying that, and we've said that about all our defenders, and we have literally shipped the most goals whatever at this point. So it's kind of difficult to judge, in my opinion.
Yeah, true. I think I'd keep him. He's looked fairly tidy when he's played in the Premier League so far. He's still young, as I say. He's not on much money. There's not a high amount of risk. He's one of our more athletic players as well, which is something we lack in this squad. So I'd keep him.
Yeah, I agree. Be a good Championship player. Whether he stays beyond that, I don't know. That might be another question. I guess that's another question we'll answer in our follow-up episode to this next season. So,
rightio. So the next one on the list, still quite a young lad, but not as young as the rest. Yuki Sugawara. He's had a bit of an up and down, right? Early doors, very very sort of popular. Had a couple of games where he played really well. Very good attacking option. It's been shown that not that great at defending and keeps handballing. 40k a week, worth about 10 million. Spoke and kind of got misquoted that he was looking at the end of the season as to what to do. And what I think he actually meant by that, which kind of annoyed me about that level of journalism, was that he was actually talking about how he's not thinking about the end of the season. But either way, it's a difficult one because it depends on where he would fit in, right? Because defensively his game really needs to be upped to be in that position. But also, we're very likely to lose to Kyle Walker-Peters. So, what do you reckon?
It's a tricky one.
I think I'd probably keep him.
Yeah,
like he seems like a good lad. He should. But I like Japanese players as it is. I think they have a lot of the right. We've spoken about it before. A lot of good characteristics and
mindset, right?
Qualities. And he seems to be like that. He's honest. He works hard. Yes, certain aspects of the game need improving. Maybe that might be the case in the Championship. And you can see, we should, in theory, be less defensively taxed than we were in the Premier League, in theory at least.
Yeah.
So maybe a good run of games in the team, because he hasn't really been able to hit the ground running. Maybe that will be what he needs. Still a lot of money in terms of wages, but again, who's going to offer anywhere near to what we paid for him at this point?
Yeah. Well, he was one of the cheap ones, right? He was worth about 5, so I wouldn't be surprised if someone comes in. But in my head, I would keep him just for the utility, but I am very wary of that. Which I know that I have a bit of a bias as well. But Greg, what's your opinion?
I think I'd like to keep him, but I think he'll probably go. Is the honest outcome? I think we got him really quite cheap, and so someone will probably snatch him up. But yeah, I think I'd like to keep him. I think he'll be all right in the Championship, and I think there's showings of a good Premier League player in there. It's just some silly mistakes he needs to get out of his game and some defending lessons to take. But that could be said of all of our back lines. So
this is also true. Right, next on our list, who's apparently on 20k a week, which if that's true, probably why he's leaving. Kyle Walker-Peters, who probably in my head is a null and void as to what our opinions are. Obviously, I'd like to keep him because I think that he is 100% on his way out at the end of the season. But unless something miraculous comes in and changes his mind, which strange things have happened. But
he'd have signed the new contract by now if he had any intention of staying.
I think there's that conversation about all the Liverpool players, like you don't go into the last season of contract without knowing or realising that you're in the last season of your contract. Even maybe that, I'm not saying he's good enough to go and play for Liverpool, but they're going to be short of a right back at the end of the season. There's plenty of clubs, I think, that would look at him. So I think he's definitely gone, without doubt. As for him being on 20k a week, again, I can't believe that. These have all come from Spot RAC website. About
it might just be the last time that he actually had public contract stuff, right? It might just be the last time this information.
Maybe, but it seems to be fairly up to date. It doesn't have the newer signings, but I've double checked a few of them across Harwood-Bellis and that across a few websites, so it does seem that that's the case. If that is the case, again, I'm not too surprised he wants to leave, because that is, considering he's been our best player for the last 3 years, how he hasn't been offered more, and he's got to be looking at someone like Alex McCarthy on double his wages and thinking, unless he's got bonuses in his contract or something like that, which is also a possibility.
Yeah, I mean that seems quite likely, right? It's just it depends what number this is. Right?
Yeah, well,
okay. Even last season he'd have struggled.
Yeah, but even individual performance bonuses, right? There's ways where that number isn't the magic number, right? So I'd take that with a pinch of salt. I don't think he'd have stayed here as long as he has if that was the true number, to be honest.
No, right. So briefly, before we take another quick break, what are we thinking about James Bree? Obviously, 10k a week. He's been a really good utility player for us, supposedly of Championship pedigree. Came to us to get an opportunity to play in the Premier League, and then the team that he left ended up getting a season of Premier League anyway. He now has had a season of Premier League, and he might be part of the worst Premier League team of all time. What do we do about James Bree? I would say bench him, right? I don't want to keep. I don't think he should be in the starting if we can get a better option. But I also don't think we should sell him, because when he does come on as a sort of utility or substitute player, I think he does all right. Nothing outstanding apart from a couple of those really nice goals during cup competitions that he randomly pulls out the bag sometimes. That's mine. What about you guys?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a good technician. I'd probably have him in the same bracket as Ryan Manning, and maybe even Charlie Taylor, although he's on a bit more. But where they'll be solid Championship options. They're not on that much money. You'd want them as squad players if they're happy to wear that, which I think probably both of them would be. Then you take him again with Walker-Peters going, Sugawara, you're not sure. They're good options to have in my opinion. So I'd keep them both. But yeah, bench them probably.
Rightio. So we will be back shortly after a quick break.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform, and Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description and learn more about Zencastr.
And we are back to continue talking about and finishing up on our defensive line. So we last left off on James Bree. One of our later signings, one of our newer signings, is Wellington, where we don't seem to have an accurate wage for him. He's 24. He's worth about $3 million. He's done okay since he's been in. Again, it's really hard to judge how well players have played because it's like we've got to this point now. And it's a funny back and forth that I often have with Greg where he goes, "We're playing all right." And I was like, by that, do you mean we're not 4-0 down? Because what we consider to be good and okay now has shifted from, say, what it would have been last season. Like, if we get a 0-0 draw now, I think we're playing a top of the world. Where it's...
I think it's reasonable to say that the results don't always reflect the way we've played.
Yeah. That's reasonable. But like, I also think that there are a couple of games where you've told me we've played really, really well, and I've watched it pass us sideways to one another for 40 odd minutes. But because it's slightly more exciting than it going in the back of our own net,
yeah, that's fair.
Consider it to be good. But either way, that's besides the point. On the actual player we're talking about in question, I think I don't really know what we've paid for him. But I think it's all right. He seems to be doing all right, considering he came in probably under the prospect of playing with a completely different manager and a completely different system, randomly showed up for his January, like obviously pre-contract agreement, rocks up, new manager in the building, nobody,
up in a leg brace as well. Like,
yeah, gets chucked sort of straight into it. I think he was going to have an under-21s game, and then he ended up being pulled because he was going to be in that matchday squad. And then, he's played a couple of games and he didn't look out of place. He didn't look like he was really, really struggling. So yeah, I would keep him maybe on the bench. Maybe Manning's a better option at left back, which I never thought I'd say at the beginning of the season, but here we are.
Yeah, I think again until he finds his footing, that's why maybe I'd get him playing as much as possible for the rest of this season. But Manning knows that league. That's his level realistically. Yes, he's been okay in the Premier League, but so I'd agree. You probably have him as the start with maybe Wellington to take over in the long run, depending on how he gets on. But yeah, I'd definitely keep him, not necessarily as a starter at this point, but keep him involved.
Right. So, on to a forgotten man who is the one we all speculated is the reason he was kept out of the squad was he didn't mark somebody properly at Leicester. Potentially cost us our place of being the worst, or cost us not being the worst Premier League team of all time. Arguably, you could say that about every single player that's made individual mistakes. Charlie Taylor, who, again, sometimes I just forget he plays for us.
He really dropped off the face of the planet, right?
Yeah, man.
He hasn't been in or about squads in forever.
There was like rumours of him going elsewhere, right? And then it was sort of he didn't want to play at that level. I can't remember who he was potentially being shipped out to.
Oh, I think.
Yeah, so he was like, I don't really want to go there. And then it was like, okay, well, if you don't get your move...
I don't think anyone wants to go to Hull.
we have a work colleague that works there. It got Cultural City of the Year, and we have a work friend that lives there, Greg, who talks about how nice it is.
Yeah,
I'm not going to rush to visit.
I'm not buying it,
but yeah, it's just a bit of a weird one. So he's supposedly on $30,000 a week, which I think is high for somebody that isn't really in and about the squad. He was kind of brought in as one of the supposed better players from teams that went down, right? So he was,
an experienced head as well, right? Was presumably the point?
Yeah, it is a bizarre one because it's something we've needed, and he's still struggled to get in the team in a position where we've flattered the ceiling. But I guess maybe because he's not a left wing back, he's probably a bit more of a out and out left back. Is maybe why he's not had the chance that. But then you'd have thought they would have thought of that before they signed him.
This is the thing. It's baffling. It's like that they've done the football manager thing of they've looked at a bunch of teams that are being relegated and decided to pick up some bargains. That is genuinely what it feels like. And previously, I thought, no, there must be more of a recruitment strategy like that in place. And then looking at Russell Martin's interview, that like Spurs genuinely talking about it. our entire transfer strategy for like the Premier League seemed to literally be, well, let's just wing it and hope for the best. And he seems like somebody where they've picked him up, that maybe he could, maybe we'll play at left back occasionally, and then never. Yeah,
I'm surprised as well with Juric's keenness to have a left-sider playing centre-back, and rather than putting a Rebo there. And he's also, he's not limited on the ball. He's quite good on the ball. So I'm really surprised, but maybe one of the teams that's coming up will fall for the same trap, or maybe that's a harsh way of putting it, and we'll try and take him off us. Bear in mind, we got him for free. If you can get anything back, then why not take it?
I'm in kind of agreement that, like, I personally think the reason that he's not played under Juric is they must have had some sort of, that it's been known that he's fallen out with a couple of players. The fact that he's like failed to get a move and now hasn't been seen under the sun, and like the down situation got apparently resolved amicably. I just think he doesn't have an interest in playing for us, or have an interest in playing there, or whatever position. It just seems a really odd one, because it's one that's, in my opinion, talked about less, right? Like we've already, we've alluded to talking about Ryan Fraser, and like they've already talked about when Juric was asked about Fraser, it's like, oh yeah, it's tactical, but like it seems to just be like there's that meme of that like person drowning in the pool, right? And then like the person above, and then chained rock bottom to the bottom of the pool is Charlie Taylor, where everyone's just like forgotten he exists. So yeah, I think it's a bit of an odd one, but I would potentially sell. But then I also wouldn't be surprised if we see him next year either. Maybe a good bench option. Greg?
I just get rid, sell, release, whatever. Like, just no interest. Like, if he didn't want to go to Hull to play at that level, he's not going to want to play for us at that level. He clearly doesn't want to play for us at this level. So, whatever. Deadwood, get rid.
Well, not quite last yet, but Ryan Manning, who, again, we did not think would be one of our best players of the season, but in my opinion, when he's played, he's been significantly better than he probably was in the Championship, to be honest. So I'd keep him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Both in agreement?
Yeah, in agreement with that. He surprised me this year. Gets some harsh critics a lot of the time, but actually being one of our more consistent players. Yeah, good Championship option, showed that last year. Be fine.
15k a week, which isn't too bad.
Yeah,
exactly. I think on the wages he's on, he's got experience at the level. You'd keep him, whether he's the starter or whether he's there until Wellington comes to speed. Or if we, it sort of depends on Wellington, really. Like I would have said that left back was a priority position when we came up, and we didn't really address it. Okay, we signed Wellington on the pre-contract, and maybe Charlie Taylor was just there to be a make weight until he came in. But yeah, I'd keep him. I think he seems like he's popular around the place, and he's a good lad. The other question might be, if Russell Martin does get a job somewhere, he might come back calling
try and take him
for some of them.
Yeah,
again, I think if the right offer came in, and he was on a free, so any offer that comes in is a profit. So if the right offer came in, would you sell him? Maybe, but could you replace him for the money you'd get? I don't know. I wouldn't be averse to losing him, but I think keep him if in doubt.
Right, and last, and what I was going to say was not least, but also maybe least. Slightly harsh, but also probably true. Juan Larios,
who I famously mistook for a mascot.
Yeah, that was about 3-4 years ago, Greg, when he was a sprite 18-year-old. He's now 21 and has had barely any game time. I've seen that he's played like a couple of games for the under-21s in the Premier League 2, which is good. He was a Man City prospect, so like, good. 15k a week, though. It's a lot of money for someone that hasn't played.
Look, in the games that he did play for us, way back in the day, he had a lot of promise and a lot of prospect, and he was one that put a shift in. Obviously, there's huge question marks about whether you can sort of get back to that after that amount of time out from presumably back-to-back injuries and not just one injury for that length of time. But it's I don't see. There's not enough proof in the pudding to sell. He's young enough that there's good potential there. So I guess keep or probably bench. You probably come in and start easing in.
Three years though, man. Like
a long time.
Yes, that's where I'm kind of at. Is like, if we get a couple million for him, fine. He's not played. This is you could say that.
But who's gonna come and pay any money for a player who's not played for 3 years? Like,
hopefully, some random Spanish team.
I think he has been linked recently, hasn't he, with a couple of teams? So
and that's why I say that.
I agree. Like, if an offer comes in, pounce on it.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of wages for what he has contributed. I'd be interested to know how much he'd been paid per minute he's played, actually.
Oh God,
that will be an eye-watering amount, I suspect. Like, he, again, seems like a talented player. Seems like a good lad. He seems to be popular around the place. He's actually seemingly been playing more attacking for the 23s. Maybe that's just because of the level he, in theory, should be at, given that he was at City. But yeah, I think if anything comes in, then you take it. If not, you try and build him back up. But you'll look at it from his perspective as well. Is he getting 15k a week anywhere else that he goes? Probably not. So you're going to be that keen to move on? I think there were rumours he's quite keen to go back to Spain, which I don't really blame him. But
yeah, it must be getting homesick and not even getting to do the job that you're kind of wanting to do must suck a little bit, and also just you don't. I don't know how long's left on his contract, right? Because he's been here now since our relegation season. Well, the first time round, so that's at least 3 years. So even if he was on a 4 year, there's only probably about a year or so left after. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But that brings us to an end of our goalkeepers and defenders. And originally we were naive enough to think this might be a one-parter, and then we realised how ridiculously large our squad is.
When they say it's bloated and needs cutting back, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's sort of like, oh no, it's not that bad. We've probably got about, and then as we've been going through, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I forgot about him. Oh no, I forgot about him. And believe me, there's some more that you'd have forgotten. So
looking on here, Larios signed a 5-year contract in 2022.
Oh, good. It's a 2027. Looks like he's staying. Rightio. Yeah. Well, if that's the case, we'll maybe talk about that some more in the next one. Obviously, we'll do a part 2 where we'll cover all of the midfield, all of the forwards. And yeah, see who else we want to keep and get rid of. Because so far, it's looking pretty cutthroat from all of us. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll be back with part 2 in the next one. Until then, catch us on all the socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the GSPN Southampton YouTube. I'm pretty sure that's covered all of them. So yeah, give us a like and a follow and a rating and all that jazz, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much, everybody. Goodbye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.